Welcome everyone and good evening. My name is Ayana Hattori and I'm with the City of Cupertino. Tonight we're providing you an update on the Revitalize Memorial Park projects, the Memorial Park Specific Plan. The project has been funded by City Council and was prioritized with the 2022-23 City Work Program. And thank you for joining us today. Casey, could I have the next slide? The following is an agenda for today. We'll be presenting you 3 park concepts based and derived from the original 2020 Parks and Recreation System Master Plan, site assessments, and public outreach done this past fall. A public survey on the preferred concept and features is currently available on Engage Cupertino through the 22nd. We appreciate your time and feedback on this project, and we will have time to allow for questions at the end of this presentation. Next slide, please. At the top, you'll see the Cupertino project team. Rochelle Sander and Susan Michael are here with me today. This is a large project, and we appreciate all the other staff involved, including the collaboration between Parks and Public Works staff and support given by the communications and IT teams. Below are the Gates & Associates team members. The city hired Gates & Associates in July of 2022 to spearhead this effort. And the team members are Casey Case and Dana Falk, who we have joining us today, and along with Michael Freitag and Rebecca Flanagan. And with this, I'll pass it over to Casey from Gates & Associates.
Hi, good evening. So thank you so much for joining. A little bit about Gates & Associates. We are a landscape, architecture, and urban design planning firm, and we are so excited to be working with you guys to put together this master plan for Memorial Park. We have a few slides to give you a little bit of context to what we're doing this evening. And starting off, big picture, what are we looking at? So this is Memorial Park. I imagine you're all relatively familiar with it, but what we want to discuss is the future of Memorial Park and how we can put together the best plan for how to improve it over time. So what we're focusing on is meeting future recreation needs, expanding with emphasis on civic, community, and natural spaces, and also promoting a unique sense of place and celebrating some of the diversity of Cupertino. And we are being mindful of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was completed in 2020, which brought forward a lot of wonderful key themes that we want to make sure we're perpetuating. Also brought forward a lot of ideas for the recommendations that could happen in Memorial Park, and is what led us to the ideas of community and civic and nature-focused opportunities. So we wanted to also establish some guidelines for what we're focusing on. So making sure we're providing opportunities for community gathering space, engaging with nature, allowing for social interaction and cohesiveness, celebrating the culture of Cupertino, enhancing the connectivity throughout the park and beyond, and then making sure we're considering the habitat and the user experience, which includes shade and recreation opportunities. So where we are right now, we started by understanding the site, doing an assessment of where it is now. Then you may have hopefully participated in some of our surveys or seen us at some of your events in the past couple of months where we were asking what would you like to see in Memorial Park. Then we took all that information and used it to develop 3 potential concepts that we'll be sharing and talking about this evening. And tonight you can see we're at round 2, talking about which alternative is best. We're going to take a lot of the information that you guys share with us tonight and probably pull pieces, favorite bits, and tiny elements from each concept and develop our preferred. So when we're sharing these 3 ideas, they are also just an opportunity and ideas that could be melded into a secret 4th option that is something we haven't put together yet. So with that, I want to give you a little context on what we had heard that generated these 3 concepts we'll be sharing tonight. So we collected input from over 2,300 people through several different forums. So some of these pictures here were our in-person events. We also had opportunities for online surveys, a similar webinar to what we're doing tonight. We met with a few focus groups, and we also had some pop-up booths on the site. Some of the feedback that we heard, one of the questions was, how are you using and appreciating Memorial Park today? And also, how would you like Memorial Park to be used and appreciated in the future? And the feedback we got was that it's pretty well loved as a civic, community gathering and natural site, and the community would like to see a similar use of space in the future with maybe a little more emphasis on community gathering. So we took those themes and keyed them back to some of the information we had available to us in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and honed in on a few of these, which I'll dive into a little deeper. But some of the takeaways we took were the top priorities are festival and event spaces, walking paths, natural areas, opportunities for playground and for lawn spaces. So in line with the themes from the Park and Recreation Master Plan was park and facility access. So making sure we are emphasizing those trails, opportunity to move throughout the park and beyond. I apologize, my dog has chosen now to run all around the house. Anyway, also celebrate what is uniquely Cupertino, so the cultural and celebrating some of those festivals as well. The natural experience, the respect to the tree canopy, considering native play areas, plant areas, also play areas, and those could be natural. There was interest in bike courses and maybe some water play amenities. Also looking for a mix of active and passive use for all ages and abilities, potentially fitness stations or game tables, and still with an emphasis on creating that opportunity for social gathering, event spaces, picnic areas, and then we overwhelmingly heard being mindful of shade. So considering opportunities for adding trees or more permanent structures. So all of that information was taken into consideration when we developed our 3 concepts, which we'll walk through right now. So some of the existing information we wanted to make sure that we communicated was paid attention to and recognized throughout our development are shown on our screen now. So these existing recreation facilities we intend to remain. Some of the other elements are slated for remain or potentially redistribute and program elsewhere. We also had attention to some existing features that cannot necessarily move, and we wanted to respect and honor those. Those are including some of the memorials on site, as well as the cell tower and the building. And then we paid attention to the existing landscape. So did an assessment of what's out there, looked into some of the trees, their suitability to maintain and thrive, as well as paying attention to how much space was dedicated to lawn. And that was something that in our conversations was potentially up for evolving and using in a different way, so it was consuming less water. And this aligned with some of the feedback we had heard for a water feature in the park. And so we tried to integrate recreation activities that would fulfill some of that need for play and being outside without actually adding an amenity that contributes to an already higher water use goal than we really intend to have in Memorial Park, and instead looking at recreation uses that are more aligned with some of our sustainability goals. So we have 3 concepts we're going to share this evening. These are 3 of them. As you can see, they have slight differences between each one. One represents a community focus, another nature, and another civic, while still having similar components throughout all of them. And some of those are that in all 3 concepts, we are adding trees. We will provide some form of an enhanced entry. We will offer more cherry trees, more planted areas, bike connections, and pathways. And we will not be proposing any changes to the Quinlan Community Center, the Cupertino Senior Center, the parking lot, the memorial, or the gazebo. So in all of those remain. So the first one I'll discuss had an emphasis on community focus. So this particular concept was really thinking about offering a balance between community-oriented gathering spaces while still considering the other elements of civic and natural. So some of the features we included in option A are replacing the existing softball field with a multi-age recreation area. So this is a bit of a nebulous area, but some of the fun ideas we considered are a bike garden, maybe some fitness stations and game tables. In this concept, we added dedicated pickleball courts, which you can see in this zone right here. We added a passive garden walk at the park center with signage for native planting, so in this general zone here. We kept an event lawn space at the southern zone, and we did an enhanced tree line at the edges of the Quinlan Center community space. We added a shaded group picnic area between the multi-age recreation area and the Quinlan lawn. And we added some street parking and a drop-off zone at the south end of Anton Way. And we upgraded the amphitheater, but kept it in its current location. So to hone in a couple on the distinguishing features of this site, I mentioned the multi-play area. So we shared some images of what a bike garden could be, as well as some of these bocce ball courts amenities. The event lawn, we anticipate being a flexible use space connected with this multi-age area with some group picnics and maybe offering some play areas within and potentially a multi-aged playground zone. Our concept B was our nature focus, so really trying to bring in some native planting elements while still being mindful of other opportunities throughout the park. So in this one, you will see we did keep the existing softball field. We transformed the southern zone of the park into an educational garden with a nature play feature. We added an event space between the Veterans Memorial and the gazebo, excuse me, with parking and a new drop-off at the corner of Anton Way. We have additional picnic areas at the Quinlan Lawn space. And in this concept, one of the current tennis courts is replaced with 4 dedicated pickleball courts. And we propose to upgrade the amphitheater and let it remain in its current location. And some of the distinguishing features of this are this educational garden zone. So we pictured an interactive space where there may be some demonstration planting, maybe pollinator emphasis. There could be an opportunity for learning zones. Also this passive garden walk, which is potentially a picnic space with also the potential emphasis on native planting. And then the event lawn continues to be a flexible use space that's associated with those events on either side. And our final concept is civic focus, so meant to really have an embellishment on gathering spaces for festivals and events and social interaction. So in this one, you'll find that we replaced the softball field with a new amphitheater. So in this one, we are relocating the existing amphitheater and putting in a new option where the existing softball field was. We added an event space behind the senior center and a centrally located interactive cultural exhibit area that orients the gazebo as the heart of the space. We also anticipate that there is an option for larger gathering events with the relocated amphitheater, and the former space is turned into a larger shaded picnic area. And then in this concept, we have 2 tennis courts that are dual striped for pickleball, and also added some additional parking on Anton Way. And some of the unique features of this are the embellished event lawn down in this lower half of our site, this interactive cultural exhibit area. So what we had envisioned, but it's flexible, was something where we can celebrate potentially local artists. Maybe there's some cultural emphasis on some of the history of the space and of Cupertino. And then we showed the relocated and expanded amphitheater, which potentially has greater performance, occupancy, and opportunity. So as I mentioned, what we're after is feedback on those concepts without the expectation that any one concept is really intended to be what we will take forward. And one thing I also want to mention is we are working on a long-term vision for Memorial Park. So this helps us to set the stage to understand as we progress where we will make improvements first. So understanding that this isn't something that we're trying to accomplish tomorrow, and we are using the information that we're getting from the conversations we'll have tonight to make an informed design that ideally captures all of the best scenarios that you would like to see in Memorial Park. So I have a slide up showing a little reminder of how we can best interact in our virtual platform today. So we have a raised hand feature, which is going to flag you as somebody who has an interest in speaking. You will be allowed to unmute when it is your turn. Dana will be facilitating whose turn it is to talk. We will also have a poll available. So when that does pop up, you're going to take a little survey on whatever device you have available in front of you. And then we're going to open it up to some public comment and discussion. We are going to request, since we have many attendees tonight, which is wonderful and we love, that we try to keep our comments to approximately 3 minutes. We'll give you about a 15-second warning when you're coming up on the end of the 3 minutes. So with that, we have our first poll. So knowing that you don't have to be married to all of the features of one concept, which do you prefer? Which one captures the most elements that you think serves the long-term vision for Memorial Park, how it best serves the community, and how you think it should be used? So hopefully right now you guys are seeing a poll in front of you. You can select your preference. And then I believe there's a button that'll say submit or vote or something of that nature when you're done. So Dana will let us know when it looks like we've gotten a fair amount of feedback and we as a group can see if there's any interesting results.
We'll give everybody just a couple more seconds. We're at 70% participation right now. Let's see if we can get up to 80.
Awesome. Okay, so I see our poll was closed. We got some results. So it looks like 56% preferred our natural park concept, which is A, which is slightly confusing in how we've named it. Concept B is community gathering, and C, civic events. So I think what we're hearing is that there is a relative amount of interest in all three. And so what we wanted to hear, instead of one person having to pick one thing, is what did we like about each, or what could be better or different about some. So I am going to share each concept, and we would love it if while this concept is on the page, you guys can either enter in the chat or raise your hand to talk to us about the concept that is shared on the screen. Once we've gotten some feedback on that one, I'll be moving to concept B and C, so we have a chance to talk about each one. So right now, is there anyone who's willing to raise their hand and let us know their thoughts on concept A, where we have this multi-use area replacing the softball field? We have an event zone down in the slower part, anticipate a flexible lawn by Quinlan.
Let's see, I see Sandra, you have your hand raised. You should now be able to unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to tell us what you think about concept A.
This was the concept we preferred, but we had a question. What we probably didn't really embrace was the removal of the softball field, as we watched, for years that being used many times, although, a good part of the day it probably does in fact stay empty. And recently they invested in lights and all that sort of thing. So how will that need, so people that have participated over the years, be met? Is there another nearby park that you would move those activities to, or could you really speak to whether the utilization is going down over the recent years, or what? Otherwise, I think it was kind of an impressive design that we could support.
For the softball field, we've been told that the usage has decreased over the years. There are other softball fields in the city that gets more heavily used. Did somebody want to follow up on that, or?
I do just want to mention that as far as the field for the survey is what do you love most about Memorial Park and what would you like to see in the future, that was not a high priority in the first round of outreach that we did as well. So when we were coming up with our concepts, we felt like there was an opportunity to potentially reprogram that space to be something that does satisfy the community gathering, play, and interact with nature opportunities. So that was our thought process behind it. But I appreciate that, yes, that's why we also left it in some other concepts so we could see what some of those options would be.
Yuko, your 3 minutes will start now if you'd like to share your thoughts on concept A. Yuko, I see you unmuted. Are you able to share? Oh, you did. There you go. Are you able to share your thoughts? Yuko, I'm going to lower your hand. We'll come back to you once we've gone through a few other participants. Lisa, I see your hand is raised. You should now be able to unmute and share your thoughts.
Thank you. So because the softball field has already been mentioned, I heard last weekend at the senior center event, a lot of people supporting keeping the softball field. And I heard in the Parks and Rec Commission meeting, several people voicing that it should stay, it's lighted, it is used. And I am at a loss to know where softball is being played elsewhere in the city, because anyway, I just think this is a chance to use it as multi-purpose area, keep it as a softball field with lights, which could actually be used for community events when the sun's not out, because it's a large space and something could be done to accommodate the surface of it to be appropriate temporarily. I think the people, sorry, the people who are interested in having a place for their dogs to socialize and exercise along with themselves, they already use that space when it's not being used. It seems like it seems like a win-win to me to have that stay, be able to be used by the people who want dogs off leash, and also just a space for people to think of something else to do with that space to play. Kickball could be played there. I mean, I just think it would be a shame to lose it. And the elements that are going to replace it in this scenario can be placed somewhere else. And I think actually a big part of me thinks it's better to spread them out a little and not have that playground, the one and only playground in this scenario, be so exposed, I guess. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Kent, I see you're up next. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Yeah, I was a softball player. I'm older now. I don't play softball anymore. I think that the softball field is probably the only softball field that's in Cupertino. I've coached a lot of baseball as well. I think it's you don't want to confuse baseball with softball. The distances are different. The field is slightly different, and I agree with the former speakers. I think, as I would put it, Memorial Park is really Cupertino's central park. It's not a local park. It's not where you put, things that you would want to go to do local things. It really is where the community comes together and does things that you don't do other places. It's really a community area, and I think that making the softball field and multi-purpose area is a fabulous idea. You've already got bleachers and things there. You might be able to do something that would accommodate both. And of course, you don't need fences for softball. I played many softball games where we didn't have a fence there. So that's the only comment that I wanted to make is on the softball field. So I can.
Thank you so much. Oh, are you? Sorry, I can't cut you off.
I'm done.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts today. Jennifer, you're up next. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share what you think about Concept A.
Thank you very much. A really interesting, lovely presentation. I love having any type of a lawn area next to the senior center and along Stevens Creek Boulevard because it's very inviting. To me, that's what a central park is like, to have lawn space for kids to just run around and, not, and I'm going to use this unstructured play. They just run around, that's what we did all summer. When my mother we'd bother her, she'd threaten to have us clean our rooms up. So we just ran out of the house and kept ourselves busy. The ballpark in the back, I think it's really important to have something like that. I have 3 brothers and they spent a lot of time playing ball. I know girls do too. I didn't really, but they ran around, they played ball with other relatives in the family, catch. They would have games. And I think that it's really important to have that type of the softball field there. So kids can just run around and be kids. I think it's got like a dirt surface and they're bleachers and you can have pickup games and kids could even go in there and throw balls back and forth, kick ball, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of a hometown thing. Someone talked about the Central Park, baseball, softball, it's kind of a hometown thing in a lot of cities in the United States. And I just kind of love it. It makes me think of the 4th of July parties with ice cream and you go and, cheer your team on at the ballpark. And I think it's, it's been there for, I guess, most of the time that the park was there. So I really would like it to remain. I think that it gives teenage boys and preteens something to do and run around and just, be kids, have a good time. It's good for the parents too and grandparents. But it is a lovely, lovely presentation. And if you all could just consider that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nori, I see you're up next. You should now be able to unmute and share your thoughts.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I chose concept A. However, Memorial Park does not have to be so strong identity focused park. It could be blended concept with community focus, nature focus, and civic focus to meet many people's interest. Memorial Park is for everyone. The least amount interest softball fields become to a multi-age play area is a great concept. The softball field is empty most of the time. There are 3 good baseball or softball fields at the Wilson Park near the City Hall. There is large senior population Cupertino. The multi-age play area can meet those senior populations. However, Cupertino should also focus on the children, young populations. Schools are closing. There are full of the families at the playground on weekend, holidays, during the events, and also children in summer camp at Quinlan Center go to the playground during the break. The playground is in concept A community focus. It's too small after closing 2 unsafe current playground. Remove the bocce ball or reduce the table game area to expand the playground for children. The new playground should be bigger and all-inclusive playground for children for all ages and ability. Bike traffic garden must be very fun for the children. The play area should be safe, soft rubber ground, not current wood chip, and wheelchair access, please. And the field where the big pond was located to be nature area with passive garden walk, just like a concept B. There are still 2 large fields for events. At the time, people can play volleyball, frisbee, and use for Dora. Those dogs are very well trained for recall, so they can play at the event, the fields. The Stevens Creek side of field is much bigger now after pond was removed. Upgrade amphitheater should be stay at the current location. The truck can come in from Alvis to Anton and park behind the amphitheater, load and load equipment, music instrument during the performance. The equipment or music instrument can be moved through the big truck entrance.
15 seconds.
Please add the wheelchair seating area to upgrade amphitheater, please. Memorial Park is easy access from Stevens Creek of 85. Therefore, many families can visit to the from other cities. This is good for small business like a restaurant, ice cream shop.
Nori, that's 3 minutes. Thank you so much for your comments on concept A. We're gonna have to go to the next participant today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dana, you guys
Yeah,
may
go
have
for it.
noticed I actually brought up all 3 because I think it's hard to comment on one. So we're just gonna, we're gonna shift and you guys can give us your thoughts. You're welcome to tell us which one you voted for and why it's your preference. I just think it might be easier for all of us to see all 3 at once while we're chatting about it. So I changing the rules on us at the last minute, but please feel free to participate in as you see fit and give us your feedback. Thank you.
Yuko, you should be able to unmute yourself now and share your thoughts about any concept, whatever your favorite or what you like about any of them. Yuko, you're unmuted, but we don't hear anything. Yuko, is there a way you might be able to log in on a different device? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
You're also welcome to add comments in the Q&A chat tab at the bottom as well if you're having trouble figuring out your sound. We will capture those as well.
Yes. Just in the interest of time, I am going to move on to Jennifer Sheeran. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share your thoughts about any of the concepts.
Hi, this is Jennifer Sheeran. Full disclosure, I'm a Parks and Rec commissioner, and I really just want to say thank you to everybody who came tonight and are sharing their thoughts on the different concepts for the park. I think there was a question by one of the gentlemen about whether or not there were any other softball fields in Cupertino. And there are 3 other fields. They're all located at Wilson Park right now, 3 different ones. So in case that was an open question, I just wanted to make sure that was answered. So again, thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a good night.
Thanks, Jennifer. Jean, you are up next. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Thank you. I'd like to agree with, well, actually, I have been favoring the nature focus mainly because I wanted to see the softball field stay. I would very much like the community focus if we didn't have that busy play area. And I agree with Jennifer that said having the lawn area facing Stevens Creek is important. I love that rolling lawn there as well. I feel that this is one problem I've had with the nature focus. I feel that it is, I don't think we need a very busy nature education forum there. We have Blackberry Farm and we have the McClellan Ranch Science Center there that does workshops and so on. And I just feel that a community park like this needs to just be calming and lots of lawn and open space. So if I could put back the softball field on the community focus and take out replace it with the front part facing Stevens Creek with back to the community focus plan, I would think that this would be a very nice park. The other thing is I wouldn't want to see us not have a playground. And I think the idea of an intergenerational play circle there is just unrealistic. I mean, you can have kids racing around on scooters and ping pong balls flying, and who's going to keep, monitor the equipment and things like that. I agree with, I forget who said it about the baseball field. Already I see people there. I walk a lot. I see people there in the baseball field doing something almost every time I go through the park. So I think the notion that it doesn't get used is not quite accurate. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Jean. Yuko, if you're able to unmute, I see all your comments in the Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing them there. I'm going to lower your hand, and if you do want to try and talk again later, you can. Up next, I see Jean and Charles Bedard. If you would like to click the unmute there on your screen, you can share your thoughts about either of these concepts here. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jean BEDORD, and in full disclosure, again, I am the chair of the Senior Center Advisory Council. And I think it is absolutely essential that there be an open lawn with better access to the senior center. Our senior center is simply too small, and we're not going to get another building. So the obvious way is to expand it outside the boundaries of the building itself. The current deck is too small. It needs to be redesigned, and access from the senior center into the grassy area is, needless to say, not ADA compliant and very difficult. The grades are wrong. the access is just in general very bad. And we, like it or not, are an aging community. Most people are not aware that 1 in 3 households has a resident who is over the age of 60. And so we need to be planning for that. In addition, directly across the street in what we used to know as the Oaks, there's going to be senior housing. And we need a place for those people to be able to walk their dogs, go do exercise and things like this. So that corner of Memorial Park needs to have plenty of open space that can be used for exercise and classes. I favor relocating the amphitheater over to that very lightly used baseball field. The current amphitheater is much, much too small, and it's certainly not ADA compliant in any stretch of the imagination. And I think our top priority has to be room for festivals and special events. This is the only place in the city that we have the flat areas that can be used for multicultural events. And, you know, we have the Diwali festival, there's just a number of different events which go on there. And so we have to, as a community, provide the facilities for that type of activity. We have plenty of nature. We've got Blackberry Farm, we've got McClellan, you know, and all of the other, 12, 15 parks, which have elements of this. So we've provided well for our youth, but we haven't provided for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today, Jean. I don't have any other hands raised. Did anybody else want to share their thoughts on concept A, concept B, or concept C at this time? Kent, I just allowed you to talk. You can unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Yeah, this is Kent again. I just have to just reiterate what the last speaker said. I think that's just spot on. As I'm looking at these different things, I think that we have maybe over-erred on the nature part and taken away an awful lot of the green space. And the green space is so important. I mean, the things that we use this park for are festivals. That's 4th of July, all of that. And you start, you know, getting rid of green space, and suddenly you're not able to hold the big festivals there. You might even find people are trying to go somewhere else to hold those festivals. And that's kind of the thing that glues our community together, is coming together at Memorial Park. It is central. And I really think that's really important. One thing that hasn't been mentioned and is a real surprise to me, and I've mentioned this to the city a number of times, we're entering a period of time with global warming where it's increasingly going to be, this year is a very, it's a tough year to be saying this because we've had so much rain, but you know, the Arctic is getting warmer, the jet stream has moved north. We're going to be getting a lot less rain. And I'm thinking that if we're going to be redesigning this park, we ought to be thinking about bringing in recyclable water. We have recyclable water going to Apple. And I think, you know, it's going to be a time when this park, as beautiful as we want to make it, is going to run out of water. And, you know, it's going to be a case of either sending water to ourselves to drink or, you know, going with brown lawns. So I'm just wondering if the city has considered that, because it'd be a shame not to bring recycled water in here, because it can be kept green at all times during all years. And it's a fairly easy thing. It's just some money is what it takes. But I think the same thing is going to be true of Deep Cliff Golf Course and Blackberry Golf Course and the other parks that we have, is that we're going to be getting browner and browner and browner and hotter and hotter and hotter with time. And why not bring in recycled water? So mainly, I think I'd like to see more green space as well, and bring in water. I'd even like to see a water feature. If you brought in recycled water, you could bring back some waterfalls and little creeks and things like that would make the park. I thought the water feature of Memorial Park was its highlight when it was there. And so I don't know if anybody's considered that, but I would certainly think that this would be the time to do it if you were going to do it. So that's all I had.
Thank you so much, Kent. And I see, Susan, you came on screen. Do you have some information to share with all of our participants?
Yes and no. I wasn't prepared to go into the detail. Hi, everybody. I'm the CIP manager. So this is a CIP project, capital improvements project. And the recycled water is a theme that's actually come up also on Blackberry Farm, and it's something that I think we'd all like to see happen. It's a difficult one. So we'd have to add a water treatment plant in Cupertino, which we don't have, and try to source the water. And we've had early conversations with I want to say Valley Water. But anyway, if that's going to happen, it's very long term. And I will say that water and water usage is important to us in these drought conditions as we move forward. So we're definitely trying to keep that in mind and be mindful and respectful, I should say. I was actually going to read Yuko's comments because she was having a hard time with her audio. Is that all right? Because there's a lot of questions and the question and answer, and I just wanted to make sure that we were acknowledging them. So Yuko asked, how many picnic tables are there currently? How many barbecue stands are there currently available? Will we have more so we can go to picnic after the restoration? We're definitely looking at, one of the options is to expand the picnic area, so it's good to hear that. Local children have requested a seesaw and merry-go-round for about 6 kids to play on it together. As for the softball area where it's focused there tonight, as long as the area is accessible for the public, even when the softball game is not happening, for flying kites, playing tags, that would be great. There are about 6 tennis courts there. You have 19 tennis courts at the adjacent Cupertino Sports Center, she mentioned. And then I also have mentioned that she wrote, I'm sorry, I assume it's a she. If we are keeping the 6 tennis courts in Memorial Park, I think it is beneficial to convert the 6 tennis court space into a parking space, if there is space. Adding a swimming pool there is good. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer everybody's questions tonight. We are definitely taking in the comments and trying to focus the design efforts based on that, and tallying people's opinions as well. There's also questions about the softball fields, and I know that Director Sander will correct me if I've got this wrong, but the ball fields at Wilson are baseball, and I believe there's 2 softball fields at Monte Vista Rec. They are not lit, unlike the Memorial Park one though. And there's also a note here about this park needs and deserves 2 playgrounds, preferably near the picnic areas. Where would a play area be on the nature focus? It is up for design. I think we're hearing quite clearly that play is important. And Teresa wrote, I think Nori's comments reflected many of my concerns with the current plans. She seems to have thought through many of my concerns. It's very impressive how much Nori has thought through this, and we do appreciate her input, especially that the playground is too small and needs to be wheelchair accessible. Agreed. And Creekside Park has flat areas for festivals. People can park at the 3 nearby schools. That's true. Yes. All right. Hopefully I've got answered, at least mentioned all the comments. I will go back through them, and we can go back to the live speakers if you'd like.
Thanks for wrapping those up, Susan. That's super helpful. I want to let everybody know that we are monitoring the Q&A. So if you do have any thoughts that you do not want to say orally, we are also listening to the kind of Q&A function here, and we'll make sure that we're keeping up to date on that and sharing thoughts with the rest of the group. Back to those speakers that have raised their hand. Andrew, I see you're up next. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share your thoughts about which of these concepts you like, or what elements that you think are most important to keep in Memorial Park. Andrew, we can hear you if you're ready to share.
I think the nature focus concept B is the best option. because
Andrew, is unfortunately you're really muffled. We're having difficulty hearing you. Are you able to get closer to your microphone?
this better?
Slightly.
This better?
Not a lot better, but it is better than the first attempt. Let's go with it.
Okay. I think the nature focus is the best option because the Parks and Rec department's first goal is conservation and directly like restoring ecosystems for conservation. And I would also like want to share that I'm very alarmed by habitat loss, extinction rates, and the general mass extinction that's going on right now. I want to share a few headlines. Humans are driving 1 million species to extinction from nature in 2019. The insect apocalypse is here, and the subtitle is that 70% of insect biomass is like gone, dead. And the third headline is North America has lost 3 billion birds thanks to spray as of 2019, which is 30% of 30% of the birds prior to then.
We really can't hear Andrew. I'm sorry.
I'm not able to hear either.
Yeah, Andrew, it might be best if you wrote it in the chat, or you can also send us an email if it's long. Yeah, because we do want to hear from you, but the audio is just not working.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew, for sharing, and we look forward to hearing your comments in another avenue. Barbara, I see you're up next. You should now be able to unmute yourself and share your thoughts about these concepts.
Hi.
Sorry, that was my bad. I accidentally muted you. Barbara, if you can unmute again and share your thoughts.
Hello.
There we go. Thank you.
My name is Barbara, and I live closer to the Memorial Park and the city center area. And I did hear the point that someone brought up that like there already is Blackberry Farm and other nature focuses, but I feel like that's probably like one of the few ones. Whereas as opposed to like fields, we have very many fields. For example, like Creekside Park and Wilson Park are very, very large fields. And those are pretty great. And I also think that it's really important to support nature because parks and are really good for like breathing in fresh air and things like that. And if we have a nature focus that supports the local native plant life, the city will have cleaner air as a result. And then also like the people's yards around the neighborhoods will have a lot more insects that can help pollinate their plants, and we can all be able to like grow different things. We do have a lot of fields, and I understand that people do feel the need to have a really nice open space, but I also want to point out that given the drought and what we all were discussing about recycled water, that is very hard to maintain the grass, and having a drought tolerant nature garden would definitely cut back on the part where we can not have to be using a lot of water if we're using native plants and educating people. And I actually think that the number of people who are not expressing a preference or emphasizing enough of an importance to our nature focus just further underscores the need for nature education in our city. And because Blackberry Farm is not in city center, and I think this would be one of the few nature focused areas that are front and center in Cupertino and not up in the hills at Blackberry Farm. I also wanted to point out that in the plan, there is an option for parking lots, and I wanted to specifically point out that I oppose adding additional parking just because I think that's really important for people to be visiting their nature parks, not their neighborhood parks more often, and walking and biking for their own health rather than driving to the park. And then contributing to like further pollution and traffic, which I know a lot of us are concerned about traffic in the area. So that's basically it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing today, Barbara. We don't have any more hands raised, so if anybody would like to share their thoughts, please click the raise hand button on your Zoom interface, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to share your thoughts. Does anybody want to raise their hand? If not, Casey, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That was a ton of really great feedback, and I appreciate you pivoting with us to allow us to talk about them side by side and understand how they could be interchanged. That's really incredibly helpful. So I'm going to click through these because we navigated beyond that and let you guys see where we are headed. So we are having a conversation with you guys this evening. Next, we will be with the Bike and Ped Commission on February 23rd. And then we're going to take all this information back, summarize this round 2 feedback that you guys have provided on these concepts, chew it all up, and come back with a preferred concept of what we think is the best path forward. And we're going to take that information and use it to do some further studies on environmental impact. So you can expect to see some conversations with City Council in April. In the meantime, we do still have this survey up and live. So if you haven't been already, please feel free to visit the engagecupertino.org page, find the Memorial Park specific plan, and when you land, there is an opportunity there to take our survey. If you have already taken it, feel free to pass it along to anyone you know who may not have already, and we'll be using that information in addition to what you guys have shared with us this evening to try to make the most informed and community-driven plan as we proceed into our preferred concept. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate your feedback. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and end our webinar and let you guys get back to your evening. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. I'll be ending the Zoom now.
Okay, good night. See you later. Bye.